NASCAR, of course, is not like the major stick and ball sports, football and baseball, you know, where we all kind of have a universal base of knowledge about these sports and can talk a little bit of football and baseball. But NASCAR, it tends to be something you're either absolutely passionate about or you think is a total waste of time and you don't regard it as a sport at all. So on that note, I'd love to read the first little item by an author unknown to me until today, when he emailed the Tony Kornheiser show. And his name is Shad, and he wrote a haiku for this very event. And it goes like this: round and round they go, 200 miles per hour. Don't forget, turn left. So that pretty much sums up what I knew about NASCAR when I was assigned to cover it for the Charlotte Observer many, many years ago. I had some notions of what it would be like, and I just dreaded the whole thing. I pictured the drivers being just coarse and crude and kind of unintelligible and, you know, having nothing to offer the world except turning left. And so, you know, I went out to the track, and I was just knocked on my heels by what I found. I mean, first was everything visceral, the noise, the color, the cars, and how close they got, and the danger and the drama. But the drivers themselves were such a shock. They were extremely personable, very colorful, extremely accessible, obviously had never gotten a scholarship to race in NASCAR, so they didn't have any of this entitlement and arrogance that a lot of stick and ball sports you find, sadly. And then what ultimately struck me was the fans and the passion that they felt toward the drivers. Each fan had their own driver. And I just thought this was an unbelievable world. And more county fair, sort of like a circus, and just with so much material for writing. I didn't know why other people didn't want to cover it. So when I got the chance to write this book, that was 16 years later, what I really wanted to do, I mean, I did not want to write a book that converts people to NASCAR and extends the NASCAR Nation fan base. I mean, the family that owns NASCAR, they're billionaires without my help. But I did want to explain, kind of decode the sport and explain why it is that people care about all these left turns. And I also wanted to write a little bit from a first-person perspective, almost a memoir, about the things along the way that made the biggest impression on me, both thrilling moments and really heart-rending moments. I saw the sport change so much in 16 years, and it felt like places were going away and people were going away. And so I had a desire to put this down just before it all disappeared. My plan was to start the book in 1992, which there was a specific race that just, I couldn't believe how exciting it was. It was the first night race run at this giant super speedway, and it had this incredible crash on the last lap, and no one was hurt, but everybody important was in it, and it was just this fabulous scene. And I thought, well, that's when the sport really started going big time, and I'll start the book there. And my wonderful colleague and coworker, Bill Gilday, said, no, you need to start the book in the dirt. Start the book where it began, where the sport began. So I did, and I'm really thrilled that I did, because that forced me to back up to NASCAR's beginning, and that certainly was the 30s, 40s, 50s. It got its name in the late 40s, but by starting at the beginning, I was able to learn myself and explain a bit more about why the sport came from the South and the moonshine tradition that gave birth to NASCAR, which I really didn't know that much about. And it was a breed of people, generally Scots-Irish people, who were fiercely independent, incredibly brave, very mistrustful of the government, made this moonshine liquor and sold it and saw no point in paying taxes on it. So to make this livelihood work, you know, they'd soup up their cars, race with no headlights in the dark through the middle of the night on dirt roads to deliver the moonshine. And anyway, these became the first fabulous stock car racers, Junior Johnson being chief among them, who became a real hero and sort of a big help to me along the way. So got to learn about that, got to talk about the actual family that owns and runs NASCAR. And there's no counterpart in professional sports for a sport this size being one family's business. And the power with which Bill France ran NASCAR is why it became so successful, for better or worse. I mean, he twice broke efforts of the drivers to unionize. He made the rules, enforced the rules, kicked people out at will. But it probably took that firm hand, that iron fist, to tame this very wild sport. I got also to learn about the totally serendipitous marriage between big tobacco and stock car racing, and that, more than anything, really got NASCAR going. Tobacco, of course, being kicked off the TVs in 1971. They couldn't advertise cigarettes on TV anymore, so they saw stock cars as the perfect vehicle to get around this ban. And they did great things for the sport in terms of improving the image. But, you know, ultimately, the whole theme of the book and my thesis is that this is not a sport about cars or money or left turns. It's a sport about people. And the people are what makes fans feel so passionately about that. And I'd like to just speak a bit about Richard Petty, who, of course, was the great champion known as the King. He won everything in sight, just like Tiger Woods wins everything now in golf. In the 70s, 60s, 7 championships, 200 wins. But to me, that's not at all his legacy. His legacy is the ethic with which he treated fans. He viewed fans as his neighbor. He viewed fans as his boss, you know. And if they wanted autographs, he would stay until the last one was signed. He would do anything for fans. No matter how big he got, he never saw himself as any different, any more special, any more deserving of special treatment than the people who put the meals on his table. And that was the guy who bought the ticket. And the significance of him, of course, was the other drivers took notice. And this ethic pretty much still endures in NASCAR, that it's all about the fans. And then we come to Dale Earnhardt, who, to me, was the greatest driver ever, the most complicated personality I've ever covered, and certainly the most polarizing figure in the history of NASCAR. Fans either loved or hated him. Half the stands would jump up on their feet when his car came on the track, when the number 3 came on the track, and hold 3 fingers in the air. And the other half would jump up and hold 1 finger in the air. And nobody felt indifferent about Dale Earnhardt. So I guess here I want to read a little bit from the book. This is the part where we meet Dale Earnhardt by way of just saying a bit about what does it take to be a good driver. So, sports physiologists, have tried to pinpoint what makes a great race car driver, searching for the defining characteristics with the zeal of a geneticist trying to unravel a strand of DNA. They have measured drivers' peripheral vision and pulse rates, hand-eye coordination and reflexes, lung capacity and adrenaline levels, ability to stay calm in the face of enormous pressure, and ability to remain focused for hours despite withering heat. All of those qualities play a part, but Kirk Shelmerdine, a former champion crew chief, has his own definition: selfishness. You have to have an insatiable desire to be in front of the other car, he says. It's such a childish, selfish thing, but a race car driver is the most selfish thing there is. Otherwise, he's not a good race car driver, because there has to be something inside you that craves that. On this point, the insatiable hunger to be first, Dale Earnhardt had no peer. Yet Earnhardt was never driven by a sense of entitlement. He was fueled by its opposite, desperation. He dropped out of school after failing 8th grade. At 17, he got a girl pregnant. At 18, he was a husband and father, pumping gas and wiping windshields at a service station while watching the world pass him by. And by the time he finally got the chance to prove himself in NASCAR's big leagues, his life's accomplishments consisted of 2 broken marriages, 3 children, and roughly $16,000 worth of debt for spare parts and tires loaned by men who had faith that he just might amount to something